Can a single sentence from Kim Taehyung shake Coldplay? Why did lead vocalist Chris Martin suddenly fall silent after hearing Jungkook's name mentioned in such an emotional context? Who would have thought that behind a musical collaboration between Coldplay and BTS lies a personal narrative so deep, so heartbreaking, that it silenced even one of the world's most outspoken musicians? Shock after shock continues to rock the global entertainment scene. In a moment that initially did not appear monumental, a statement from Kim Taehyung, better known as V from BTS, delivered in a quiet but piercing tone, created a wave of silence that stunned Chris Martin. The sentence was not long, not filled with rhetoric, but its power was enough to halt the flow of conversation even from a senior musician who has spent decades conquering the world stage. What exactly did Taehyung say about Jungkook that rendered the Coldplay vocalist speechless? The meeting between Coldplay and BTS is no longer breaking news. Their collaboration on the song My Universe has transcended cultural and language barriers, becoming a powerful symbol of cross-national and intergenerational friendship. However, there is something that has never been openly revealed: the personal dynamics among BTS members that, at certain points, surfaced in shocking and touching ways. Taehyung, who has long been known as a calm yet expressive figure, finally unveiled a small part of the emotional burden he has carried about Jungkook. What's even more surprising, he did it not in a closed room or exclusive interview, but in front of Chris Martin, during a private session witnessed by several internal sources. He holds back too much. Sometimes I wonder, were we as Hyungs fair enough to him? That statement came from Taehyung's mouth after a warm conversation about their journey in BTS. A simple sentence, but it struck directly at the heart of an issue that has never really been discussed openly. Chris Martin, who had been explaining the importance of empathy and teamwork, suddenly stopped speaking, staring silently at Taehyung. His face didn't change, but the room's atmosphere instantly turned silent. Why was that statement so moving? What has been going on between Jungkook and the other BTS members, especially Taehyung, that made Chris Martin, a man known for his expressive courage, choose not to respond verbally? Could this be a sign that the dynamics behind media portrayals of BTS are far more complex? Internal sources present at the meeting said that the mood turned deeply emotional after Taehyung's statement. No one expected that issue to arise in a discussion initially focused only on musical direction and global tour experiences. Some staff members even said that Chris Martin appeared deeply moved and at a loss for words, a response rarely seen from him. Furthermore, information circulated that Taehyung's words didn't stand alone. He then continued by discussing how much pressure Jungkook had faced from a very young age. He started everything as a teenager. While we were still learning to understand the world, he already had to appear perfect every day, Taehyung said, his voice nearly trembling. That sentence, accompanied by a serious gaze that could not hide its depth, completely changed the atmosphere. What did that sentence mean? Has Jungkook all this time been burdened by internal expectations from fellow members and external pressure from the industry? Why did Taehyung feel the need to raise this issue in front of an outside musician rather than in an official interview with Korean media? Those questions piled up even more when one of Coldplay's producers who attended mentioned that Chris Martin personally asked Taehyung again after the meeting, "Is he okay now?" This was not a rhetorical question. It was a question that came from a musician who seemed genuinely shaken by the emotional expression of someone the world knows as a member of the most successful boy band. What made Taehyung's words about Jungkook so painful? Why was it Chris Martin, who has no direct emotional relationship with Jungkook, who responded with such meaningful silence? Is this a reflection of something much larger and more complex behind the scenes of the K-pop world? However, in such an emotionally charged atmosphere, a question arises that cannot be ignored. Can we really believe that this actually happened as reported? To what extent can we trust the rapidly developing narratives in social media and various digital platforms? Why are we so easily moved by fragments of statements that may not even have full context? Chris Martin's reaction, which is described as silent after hearing Taehyung's statement, certainly sounds dramatic, even touching the deepest layers of public empathy. But is there direct documentation of this event? Is there any visual or audio proof to verify the truth of this incident? Or are we just piecing together speculative fragments from viral tweets, edited TikTok videos, and YouTube narratives that may not have a solid journalistic foundation? This is where collective reflection from the public becomes crucial, especially from fans and observers of the entertainment world. Are we witnessing a true story of emotional relationships within BTS? Or are we being swept into a wave of sensationalism intentionally created to maintain the existence of media and digital platform algorithms? Is this a form of emotional transparency from an idol, or just a public relations strategy carefully crafted? It should be emphasized that the information regarding the emotional moment between Taehyung and Chris Martin did not come from a single verified primary source. This information has spread through various social media channels like TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, X, and several entertainment websites that may not strictly adhere to the verification process of the content they display. In fact, most of these narratives appear in the form of free interpretations of short videos, dialogue snippets, and third-party comments. So can we fully trust this viral narrative? Or are we simply reinforcing an ecosystem of information that lacks truth? Criticism from academics and media observers has become increasingly relevant. In the midst of the flood of information, there is an urgent need to build media literacy awareness, especially among fans. As readers and viewers, we should question every narrative presented emotionally. Is the emotion we feel a result of real connection? Or is it a narrative manipulation meant to harvest clicks, comments, and impressions? This critical question does not intend to erase the emotional value that might indeed be sincere. However, we must be aware that the entertainment industry, even global giants like BTS and Coldplay, is also part of the media capitalism system, where emotions, feelings, and intimate moments can be packaged as public consumption products. Therefore, it is important to ask, are we witnessing a sincere confession, or are we being conditioned to respond emotionally to something that has been carefully crafted? Therefore, we invite all of you to think deeper. Do not rush to believe. Do not let your heart be played with without reason. Validate every piece of information. Examine its sources. Investigate its context. And before you share news like this, ask yourself, is this worth believing? Or is it just part of a digital emotional manipulation game that is becoming more sophisticated? What do you think? Do you believe that this event actually took place? Or do you feel that this is just a constructed narrative created to boost public engagement and presence? How much do you trust social media as a valid source of news? And is it possible that behind all this, there is a larger strategy being carried out? Let us use this moment as a call to think, not just feel. Because in today's world of information, skepticism is the deepest form of care.